Welcome back everyone, Adzi here, and here we are. We've got another gun on the bench for a bit of an upgrade. Now this is a JG MP5. Very nice, I'm sure you'll agree. This basically belongs to a guy who hasn't played in a number of years, and this has been sat under his bed for a little while. So he's brought it out, brought it to me and said, can we give it a bit of a clean up, a bit of an upgrade, just to get the performance up a little bit before it. However, he did ask me another question, and that is to do with these. He says to me, can I use these batteries? I think I'd prefer to use these over the new Lipos. Will they be any good? So this, for those of us that have not seen it, those of us that have played Airsoft for a while will be, I'm sure, very familiar with these, because this is kind of where we all started. If we've been doing it a while, these are the nickel metal hydride batteries, or NiMhs. It's kind of the short way of referring to it. And these are kind of the standard back in the day. Some of them, like I began with, had like these huge packs that were like this kind of big. Like they're bigger than your mag in size. They were huge, they were big, you couldn't discreetly put them in the rifles and bits. So they were kind of always the way that they were done. So I think the answer is yes, we could certainly use these. So what we'll do, and the reason I've put the camera on, is that we're gonna put some upgrades into this toy. And then what we'll do is we'll have a look to see how this performs on these batteries, which is what they're going to be intended to be used on, versus kind of the more modern equivalent that we're all kind of used to now. I mean, that is a 7.4 volt battery, Lipo, and that is an 11-1. So it's obviously got the extra cell on it, a little bit more power. So those are kind of what we're kind of used to. That's the done thing nowadays. But are these still able to hold their own in today's kind of airsoft world? So let's do some upgrades on this rifle. We're going to do some tests on it first with these batteries as we intend to use them. See what it's doing, see what it sounds like. Apply some upgrades, and then we'll have a little compare to see how we've managed to improve it using these, but equally we'll put the Lipos in and just see what they do differently. So let's get to it, let's open this and get some upgrading done. So here it is, just quickly then. So we've got the NiMhs batteries in, and just to clarify, because I don't think I've mentioned it as of yet, these are a 9.6 volt battery, just so we got some comparison to the other batteries that we'll test it with later. But this is what it sounds like with one of those in. Let's put it on a chrono. Okay, so we have the chrono. I've got 0.32 gram BBs, and the reason for that is the upgrade we're going to do is going to be to support the effective use of 0.32 gram BBs. So we're going to chrono it on that throughout. So let's start with semi-auto first of all. We've got... Okay, I did 198 feet per second, 203, 205, 209, 207, and 212. It keeps increasing. 214, we could go on forever. 212, 210, 210, 210, 214, 218, 216. Okay, I think we get the gist of that. Let's just see what it does for rate of fire. So full auto very briefly. Okay, interestingly, that was doing, so 235 feet per second was the last one to go through. 13 rounds a second on the 9.6 NiMhs battery as completely standard. So that was doing about 0.8 of a joule. Obviously the semi-autos were a little bit less, so I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it could just be because it's absolutely filthy. And with every BB we put for it, maybe it was cleaning it, I don't know. Who knows what the reason that was creeping up in power for. But nevertheless, let's rip it open. Let's go through some of the upgrades we're going to do, and then we can see the performance thereafter. Okay, so here we are with the gearbox open. So we've dismantled the whole of the MP5. We've got all the bits nice and neat in the order they came off. Now, looking inside here, this is obviously the standard internals. There are a number of bits we are going to be swapping out in here. For example, we've got the piston. All plastic teeth, that's not going to stand up to the punishment that we want to be putting through it. We want a slightly faster set of gears in there that I like to use. We are going to change things like the cylinder head, the nozzle, just to help with all the air seal and get it working good. That's the original motor. We'll swap that out. And then of course you've got all the barrel and hop as well. We're going to change all the barrel, and we're going to change the hot rubber in there. So the bits we are going to use are going to be as follows. So we are going to have a nice new piston. which I will set up to work well with the piston head, which is this one down here. We'll adjust the teeth on here so they all go with the teeth of the sector gear and they all pick up nicely. Those are a 16:1 SHS gear set. These are the ones that you might have seen if you watch my previous videos that have got the little delayer chip, sector chip thing here that picks up the tapping plate in a slightly different position. We have got the upgrade of the cylinder head. That is the correct shape cylinder head that works with that shape piston head. So they're going to go well together. We've got the ultra torque motor. I think that's made by Element, or that's how they're advertised online. Anyway, I think that is rated about a 31,000 on an 11 1-volt battery, which is absolutely ample and will give decent enough performance under most scenarios. So we'll see what it does with the 9.6 NiMhs. We're going to swap out the nozzle. That there is a 21.2mm nozzle, which is identically matching what's on there. I know that because we measured it. And then for the barrel end, that is, where's the print on it? It's here, can we see that? 6.02mm, and it's a 229mm in length. So that's absolutely fine, that matches what's in there at the minute. And then of course the important bit for lifting the BBs, especially as we're going 0.32, that is a maple leaf Macron and of course an Omega nub to power it. So let's get those in here and then we can start thinking about getting it back together. Well, that's the gears in. The piston head, cylinder head, nozzle are now all in and ready as well. I'm going to put an M110 in because we've short stroked the sector gear. So this, I think, is ready to go back together. And then just like that, the gearbox is back together. So we've done that. Now we're going to do the barrel and the hop. So we're going to take this out, the hot rubber out. We're going to put that in, that hot rubber in, and of course the Omega nub. And then we can rebuild the whole rifle and then we'll test it and see what it does. There we go. New bits all on. All we have to do now is reassemble everything back in the body and we can test it. Let's get that done. Okay, so that is now all back together in its working form. So let's see what it performs like on the 9.6 NiMhs and then we'll do a little comparison about how that's performing versus the Lipos, just as a battery versus battery. However, first of all, let's see what improvements we've done on this. So if you remember before, we had a rate of fire of about 13, and I think it was about 235 feet per second. I'll put the previous chrono back up on screen. So let's try it again now. So let's go with semi-auto first of all. So let's have first shot. So 269 feet per second, 272, and 272. So that's good. So that's 1.1 joules, which is phenomenal. Let's see what full auto does. Ready? Oh, okay. So we have just had 17 rounds a second. It looks like the highest point was one of the last shots there, I think, from what I saw speeding through the chrono. So about 1.13 joules. So that is like right on the limit, which is good. But at the same time, I always like a bit of a margin between maximum where it is. To be fair, though, I haven't actually got the hop set yet. So obviously, I haven't been able to do a range check on this one, on a range, somewhere safe to do it. So I've only been able to kind of guess it by eye. We're normally not too far off, but that might change ever so slightly once the hop is applied correctly. But a phenomenal result. So we've seen a gain of 4 rounds per second and a huge jump in power. So the performance on that little beast now is going to be absolutely amazing. However, what we'll do, just before we round off the video, let's see how it compares to a 7.4 volt battery. And then kind of the maximum that this is built to withstand, which I would always say is an 11.1. So let's see what both of those does. Right, 7.4 volt is plugged in. So let's get that on the chrono. Obviously the FPS shouldn't be changing at all. This is purely going to be a difference in rate of fire. So let's see. What does it sound like on semi? It's all good. Now, rate of fire, this will be the difference. So that, interestingly, the 7.4 volt has done 15 rounds a second. So a couple less than what the 9.6 was doing. But let's see what it tops out at if we swap this battery over. So if we swap that for the 11.1 ready, I'd like to see a figure of perhaps a little over 20 rounds a second on this one. So let's just see. Here we go. We'll go straight in with full auto. Actually, no, semi first, because it'll be a lot more responsive. Ready? Nice. And then full auto sounds like... I think we're starting to run out of ammo. Oh, look at that. We had a slightly warm shot then. But that, interestingly, has just done a 25 rounds per second on the 11.1 volt battery. So I do think then, even though the NiMh is certainly an older technology, it can still hold its own in today's world. So nothing wrong with them. It's not often we see them. A lot of people opt for the Lipos and that because it seems to be the modern way. But I see no reason why you cannot use the kind of original NiMh styles battery that we kind of all started with many, many years ago in the sport of airsoft. So there you go. 7.4, 9.6, 11.1. Based on the voltage, they get the result in the exact order of what you'd expect from the voltage themselves. So there you go. The NiMhs live on. So yeah, hopefully you've all found that interesting. Maybe you found that useful. Obviously, any comments you want to make, chuck them in the comments below and we'll have a little look through. It'd be interesting to see your thoughts on what sort of batteries you guys are using. But in the meantime, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will look forward to seeing you all in the next one.